Now, this is another big change is coming very soon. And it's really important. It goes back to the notion I started with that the wisdom used to be that a brain injury was as bad as it's ever going to be on the first day, and then that the brain gradually continues to heal and gets better. Well, research now shows that's absolutely false. It's just absolutely false. In fact, if there's a serious enough brain injury, it becomes a chronic disease. And that is where they are going to try to get the medical treatment codes changed. The people that are leading the research in this field want to have brain injury treated like a chronic disease because that's what it is. They want to call it CBI, so you probably will start to see that within a couple years. It impairs the brain and other organ systems. It can persist and progress over a lifetime. And that is so important. I cannot underline that enough because the insidious part of the notion that a brain injury is as bad as it's ever going to be at first is, as your client gets worse, the defense says, well, secondary gain, emotional or psychiatric problems. So not only is your client getting worse because he has a brain injury, he has the other side accusing him of either malingering or having some other issue in his life. An increased risk of early dementia. This is really important. All kinds of articles about that. You can get that almost with any brain injury of certainly any brain injury of significance. This is hemosiderin is the only chemical I was going to talk about real quick. Hemosiderin forms after there's any bleeding in the body, and it's a marker that there's been damage. And so I'm going to do this real quick. I have time to do this real quick. Okay. This was done by High Impact Graphics, and what they did was they took, God bless it, you know. Okay, what you're seeing here is that the CT scans were done after the initial injury. And they were done, I don't know if you can tell on the left, they were done at about this level, which is deep in the brain. And there was one finding of intraventicular blood. And the way the doctors talked about that at the ER was a small finding of intraventricular blood. Well, it turns out that's a big deal because that's deep in the brain. And what I learned is to have a bleed deep in the brain indicates the entire brain has had a tremendous amount of force, and that undoubtedly there's other areas of damage that just don't show up yet. And those areas do show up later because of the chemical changes, and that's what I want to show you here if I can. So now I'm going to move to a year and a half later. I had MRIs done at Wayne State University. It's a particular type of MRI. It's a little more high-powered. And what you start to see is, I know you can't probably read those yellow things, but it's now pointing to areas in the brain that were damaged. There's chemical markers that show where there was damage that didn't show up initially. And what you'll see is, I'm just going to play this out. If you watch, you'll see it just keeps going down the brain. The damage is all the way from the top to the bottom. It was very helpful in this case to persuade the defense to ultimately settle the case because we were going to be able to explain to a jury that this was a significant injury throughout the entire brain. So let me play this thing out if I can. And you can just watch, see it just keeps going down, slices deeper in the brain. And then this is actually comparing it to the MRI in case there was any question about the authenticity of the animation. And then finally, this ends up with a comparison of the two. On the left, you have the initial CT scan that shows just a small bleed in the brain. On the right, you have the chemical markers that are left because of the injury that was ongoing after the initial injury. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate it.